two guys that, to me, are obsolete this year. And both guys averaging 17 points. And again, I don't think Klay Thompson is the same player he was with Golden State. I mean, with all the injuries and all the backlash over the last couple of years and really going to the Dallas Mavericks and probably regretting he went to the Dallas Mavericks because the Mavericks are a shell of what they thought they were going to be. But here's the thing. Ja Morant going after Klay Thompson on the floor after the game is absolutely classic. Honestly. Now, Ja Morant is a shell of what he was and what he should have been and what he should be this year. This is a guy that's had problems on and off the court. The gun situation, and then his game, the transition of his game. This guy at one point was the most electrifying, athletically gifted point guard when he came into the league. What he was doing for the first 2 years was incredible. Everybody was saying this guy was a top 3 point guard. He went from a top 3 point guard, but not even in the top 10 right now. He has fallen off completely. I don't know what's going on with the organization, if they're planning to move him or how they're going to move him after extending him the way they did. And they're really stuck in a long spot. Here's the thing with the Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson don't get along with anybody. The Patrick Beverley situation, Patrick Beverley saying something about his girlfriend, Meg Thee Stallion, and he came out, Patrick Beverley. But Patrick Beverley is just trying to bring in advertisements and sponsors. He's just trying to be funny. He's not a basketball. He's not an NBA player anymore. He's trying to bring in some kind of money for his product. And I understand the fact that Klay Thompson doesn't want to be spoken about. But this is the same guy that went out there over the years when he was playing for Golden State, not only fighting with his own teammates, he had problems with Draymond Green. He's had problems with other players on his team, not getting along with people in the locker room. Even at the tail end of his career, he had problems with Steph Curry, and they weren't getting along his final year or final 2 years over there at Golden State. This is a guy that's had problems keeping relationships. Hopefully keeps this one with Megan Thee Stallion. I mean, this problem with him and Ja Morant, and Ja Morant is perfect for the tabloids. Then he comes and attacks Ja Morant saying that, and I think he's right. You want to see your best players on the court, but this guy can't keep himself out of the tabloids and out of trouble. There's no question that's the problem right now with Ja Morant. But Ja Morant is still only, 23, 24 years old. He's got a lot of basketball left. How much basketball left does Klay Thompson have? And nobody likes this guy. It's not even the Dallas Mavericks in the organization. And I'm sure there's a lot of rough stuff going on in that locker room because he doesn't really talk to anybody. He's a very quiet guy. Again, going back to the Golden State Warriors situation, he just couldn't get along with his teammates. And that Jordan Poole thing, with the Draymond Green thing and it happened, and who do you think started that whole thing? It was Klay Thompson that started that whole beef. And then the LeBron James take. We all know LeBron James says a lot of silly things. When LeBron James goes back on some of the players he couldn't stand playing against, it wasn't Draymond Green. It was Klay Thompson. He was the name that LeBron James brought up in many conversations on his podcast on guys that he couldn't stand in the league and can't stand in the league over the years. So it says a lot about the fact that nobody likes Klay Thompson, and Ja Morant, who, besides the stuff that he's done on and off the court, a lot of the players think that he's still gifted. He still has an opportunity to be successful in the league. I just think that Ja Morant is in the wrong place right now. I think he needs to go somewhere where he can be controlled, maybe a coach, a veteran coach that's been in the league, a.k.a. a Jason Kidd, or of somebody of that magnitude. I don't think he's going to play with Klay Thompson. It would be interesting them playing on the same team because I know Klay and Draymond didn't like each other. So I think Klay has always been stuck in between a place of who he is and what he is. Even when Kevin Durant was over there, Klay Thompson was one of the best players in his position, but he was forgotten because you had Kevin Durant and Steph Curry there. So he was just the other guy. And that's the way I believe Klay Thompson's going to be remembered. Not the Splash Brother, the other guy. And that's what he is. Like the Step Brothers, he is. It was so funny when that picture of this, it was him and Steph Curry, and Steph Curry was the one sitting down and Klay Thompson was the one putting his hand on Steph Curry. That's been his whole career. He's just been the other person, the other guy. And to attack Ja Morant, it's funny. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's just another way for them to be stuck in the way this league is, trying to find something to say about a player you don't like and try to draw them in to create some kind. Do you hear anybody speaking bad about him? Honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
do you really hear any player in the league, besides the stuff that he's done on and off the court, have you ever heard anybody say anything bad about John? And Sean didn't go after anybody but Klay. I mean, honestly, he didn't go after Cooper Flagg. He didn't go after anybody. He went after Klay. And Klay takes everything so personal. He really does. For all the years that he was over there, when he played the Heat, remember the Heat and the fact that he had a problem with certain players on the Heat, and then had problems with the Lakers, with the Golden State Warriors, said something about LeBron James, how big of a bitch he is, and all this other, that crying. I mean, the Golden State Warriors for years have always been the crybabies of the league. Now you all of a sudden have guys, their coach coming out and saying what he said over the last week, saying that the league is not protecting the players and they should they should spread out the games or cancel certain games or only have 70 games. Why? Because they're getting older and they're not the same team they once were. Young and energetic the way they've been over the years. And they don't have Klay Thompson there in his prime, or Steph Curry or Draymond Green in their prime, or even a Kevin Durant in their prime. So they're finding ways, or an Andrew Wiggins finding a way to complain and bitch. It's very Golden State-like. And now we're going to go to Klay Thompson, who is the epiphany of the Golden State Warriors. He wants to be in the tabloids. He wants to be up front. If you're dating Megan Thee Stallion,
look at his girlfriend.
Yeah. If you're going to all the BET Awards and you're showing up to all these awards, of course you're going to be center stage. You're going to be the center of attraction. You want to deal with that. You're bringing yourself in front of the media and stuff like that. So Ja Morant, yeah, he's been a media antagonizer. He's done some stupid things over the last couple of years. He's also 23, 24 years old. He's still a kid. He still has a lot of time to develop. And again, he might be in the wrong place. And maybe he really hasn't developed into the player. Klay's right about this. There are things that he has done that's affected his game, has not really put him where he should be. And out of that draft, when you talk about R.J. Barrett and you talk about Zion Williams, I would say he's the best player in that draft by far. He's the best player out of those three. But here's the problem. As gifted as he is, as he plays the game and at a high pace, he's really taken away from his game for all the things that he's done on and off the court. So his game has really not developed the way you thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to transition his shooting ability. Remember, when he came into the league, he wasn't much of a shooter. He got better, but he really hasn't developed that shot, where I thought that if he developed that shot, which Russell Westbrook couldn't, because he's the prototypical player. He really is Russell Westbrook, but a better version of him. But is he now? Because he's fallen off, and Russell Westbrook got better and better every single year. If this kid figured out how to shoot the ball, do you know how good Ja Morant would be? We're talking about that, about a player right now in Detroit that I said you could argue, Cade Cunningham, who you could argue is the best point guard in the league right now and up for an MVP. He's better than Cade Cunningham. He really is. The gifts, the athletic ability that this guy has is tremendous. But we might never see it because of his problems and some of the things that he brings to the forefront. It seems like he doesn't really want to play the game of basketball. It's all about money. It's all about fame. It's not about the game. And that's something I got to give LeBron James a little bit credit. As much as LeBron James has been stuck in those situations, LeBron still has been a great player. LeBron still developed and became the superstar that everybody believed he was going to become, and then became a multi-billionaire because he used his name to transition it into a money-making grab for the league. So unfortunately, Ja Morant is not LeBron James. He's not even close to LeBron James, and his game is just not flourishing. And I think that if you're a basketball fan, you wonder, maybe this is the wrong place. Maybe Memphis is not the place for him, and maybe it's time to move him if somebody would take him and go to an organization, maybe a city, where he can be controlled and develop his skill, which could be, it could be elite if he figures that out. That, Clay is right. But everything else that he said about him, completely wrong. Completely.
The Warriors School of Pettiness.
I want to say this about the NBA players. Out of all the sports, they're the most when it comes to prima donnas and trying to figure out ways to create things that aren't there. And Draymond Green's done it for years. Brooks has started to do it with the Olympics, with the Canadian team. I don't know if anybody's checked that out on Netflix. This is the problem with the NBA, is that the NBA has allowed the players to run the league. And when you have this going on the court, think about it. The game is over. And you have Ja Morant, who's not even playing in the game, and KLAY Thompson going at it and yelling at each other and saying whatever they're saying, cursing at each other and calling each other out. And that the NBA didn't suspend these guys. I think you need to do something. Suspend these guys, give them a game suspension so they understand not to embarrass the league. Because to me, the league is, if it was David Stern there, if he was still the commissioner of the league, both guys would have been suspended. Absolutely would have been suspended, because we've seen David Stern do less harsher things to players, doing less things after a game, and suspend them. So I just think that the NBA needs to take the bull by its horns. They don't know how to do it, and that's why Adam Silver, to me, is the worst commissioner in sports, because he doesn't know how to control the players. And that's my opinion to it, and I feel for some of the fans, because this is a very popular sport, and it's growing internationally, huge. And you're talking about 5 international players that a lot of people believe will be drafted in the top 15 this year. 5 of them, and 3 of them could be drafted in the top 10. That's how it's growing internationally. And you have players like KLAY Thompson and Ja Morant or Russell Westbrook and all these players. They all have podcasts now, and they can do whatever they want and say what they want, because it's freedom of speech. But if the league dropped the hammer on them and said, listen, you can't say this, you can't do this on your podcast, you can't interact or consider attacking this while you're playing in the league, maybe the NBA would have more control over the players on what they say, because they can do whatever the hell they want. So I think it's a really bad situation for the NBA, and it seems like it's getting worse with sports betting. So this isn't, to me, there's no hidden ball trick here. I think that the NBA, Adam Silver should be fired. That's what I think. And I think that ownership needs to figure out how to control the players after the new CBA comes out. I don't know when the new CBA is, but something needs to be done with these players and keeping their mouths shut when they shouldn't be opening them.